Hola, ¿cómo estás? She said, Konnichiwa. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Naya. Today's video is going to be about altar. You know, how to create one, what is it? You know, I'm gonna give y'all some little tips and my own experiences with my own altar. It's been a journey. It's been a journey, girl. But like I said, with ancestral work, it's like levels to this shit. I'm not gonna hold you. It's real levels to this shit. So this is just gonna be the basics. And like always, if I can't help you, I'm gonna guide you to somebody else who can. So just hit me up if you have questions or whatnot, or go back to my other videos and check out some of the spiritualists that I have linked. A very, very good person for ancestral work. It's Afro Spiritual, Afro_spiritual on TikTok. That's who just came up into my mind. So I'm gonna say, yes, he get down, he don't play. And another one that I've mentioned in my other videos is Dawn and Dreams here on YouTube. I'm gonna link her. I'm gonna link those two. But for anybody else, go back to my other videos and check out the description boxes to help you, give you more guidance. So we're gonna hop right into it. Right, so what is an altar? An altar is a dedicated space for your ancestors. So it's really an invitation for them to be in your space. And it's the place that it's just kind of just to show appreciation for them in your life. No, it's not worshiping, oh my God, they're gods. No, girl, they just paved the way for you. Okay, so it's really showing them respect that you actually care for them, and they need food to keep blessing you with all this shit, to keep protecting you from shit. They need energy on the other side, otherwise everybody gonna be fucked. I don't know how else to put it. So you know, you don't look to them like God. They are not God. They are not a God in a way. But I feel like they've earned, to be an ancestor is of high regard. You know, they paved the way for your black ass to be right here, right now. That's deserves some respect. That deserves some acknowledgement. Something, girl, something. And especially if you're getting into this work, they need a space where they can just soak up their offerings and help shit move for you. So I mentioned in my how to connect with your ancestors video that everybody is not an ancestor, right? So keep that in mind, but we're gonna talk about that a little bit later. Exactly. So the importance of an altar. It's very, very important to have an altar because, like I said, it just shows that you respect them. You respect the work that they're doing for you on their behalf, that you respect them being alive so you could be alive. It's just a place of remembrance, acknowledgement, and it's just love, you know? And also, they need energy to move. They need energy to, like I said earlier, to make shit move on your behalf. Girl, they don't work for you. They are working with you, you know? So make sure you keep that ego down in check, because they don't really have to do shit for you, if we're being 100% honest. They want to because they love you. So make sure you show them that love back by creating an altar for them, creating that space for them. So next thing we're gonna get into is who should be on your altar. So who should be on your altar? Of course, you know, if they were, you know, good to you in this life, like in the 3D while they were still alive, they were a good person, they were good with you, y'all had a relationship, they should be on your altar, of course. But also other ancestors who you know of, who you didn't meet in this lifetime, they should be on your altar too. But you have to make sure, like, you're asking questions with about them with other family members. Like I said in my How to Connect with Your Ancestors video, you gotta kind of be slick with it if your people don't really fuck with what you're doing, or if your family members don't really fuck with what you're doing. So you gotta be slick. You know, you gotta ask a family member, like, how was that person when they were living? Like, what were they like? You know, were they a good person? Were they a bad person? You know, what were some of their strengths? What were some of their weaknesses? You gotta really get to know that ancestral spirit before you put them on that altar, because, like, again, that's like giving them access into your energy, into your being. So you want to make sure that you only have ancestors of love and light on that altar, so they can help you, so they won't purposely steer you off course. Because if you put an ancestor on there who don't really fuck with you, girl, your life about to be like just fucking insane. So make sure you are taking that due diligence to do your research. So, like, if they was an asshole in the 3D, they're gonna be an asshole in the 5D. And I talked about, like, ancestral elevation and everything, but that's only if you, like, really want to elevate that certain ancestor. And I feel like with some of the work that you're naturally doing, you are kind of lifting up your bloodline in a way. You know what I mean? But if you really want to take the time to elevate a specific ancestor, then there's ways that you can do that. So for who should be on your altar, I feel like, you know, before you set up one, maybe think about getting an ancestral reading, because if you've taken the time to actually build up that connection through communication, through prayer, through journaling, then your ancestors y'all should already be familiar with each other. Like y'all should already, kind of, y'all ain't gonna be like this, but y'all should kind of be, like that already. You know what I mean? So once you get that ancestral reading, it can really help you. I wish I would have done this, but it can really help you with when it comes to setting up an altar for specific people, because more ancestors who you didn't even know in this lifetime are going to come through for you and be like, hey, I'm here, I'm helping you, I want to be on the altar. So I encourage you to get an ancestral reading before you set up your altar, because it can kind of help eliminate a lot of shit. Okay, so yeah, like for me, I set up my ancestral altar maybe a little too soon. Before I should have did like a little more research. I didn't really have anybody to guide me, so I honestly just had to kind of figure this shit out. So now I'm helping y'all. But I just kind of put up my ancestral altar with familiar ancestors that I knew in this lifetime that I haven't had remembrance of. But at one point I had one ancestor on there who I wasn't really too sure of, because I didn't really know him for real. And I should have asked questions before I put him on my altar. Now it's like, now I got a better understanding of who he is. You know what I mean? So it's just things like that you can avoid, And some ancestors, if you just ask, some ancestors will just come through and reveal themselves to you. And sometimes you need a reading. Sometimes some ancestors just don't simply plainly want to work with you. So I encourage y'all to get an ancestral reading. And I said about like deity work. So deity work is a little bit differently. Some deities will reveal themselves to you as you are ascending in your spiritual journey. So more deities will kind of come and want to work with you. But that's a whole other thing. So if you are looking to work with deities, make sure your ancestors are taken care of first, because they are your first line of defense. Okay, before you start working with anybody, you need to make sure you and your ancestors are like this. Okay, not like this, like this. Okay, keep that in mind. So yeah, it's like the same thing with wanting to connect with your ancestors. If you want to connect with a deity, you need to do a lot of research. You need to show them that you are intentional about connecting with them. Okay, don't just half-ass it, because they ain't gonna want to connect with you, or they're not gonna do shit for you because they know you don't really mean it for real. So make sure you're just doing a lot of research. Same thing with archangels. Even though archangels are around you, but like just taking the time to understand their purpose, to understand the role that each archangel plays, it can really help you in deciphering what energies you may need at that time, or really understanding the energies that are already around you. So now some of the tools that you need for your altar, work with what you have. Okay, you ain't got to go out and buy everything. Your ancestors know your situation. If you got the money to splurge and get to go big and go bold for them, 100% do that. But if you are a little constricted with your finances, then they know that and they are going to work with you. So I really encourage you to work with what you got, because honestly, that's what a lot of our ancestors did. They worked with what they had. They didn't always have the glitz and glams, but they made that shit work. They made shit move. Okay, so really just draw on that gift from them. So some of the tools that you are going to need for your altar, these are like just basic requirements. You have to have these. Are the 4 elements: fire, earth, water, air, or whatever Avatar said. But no, for real though. Is that the order? I've never watched the show for real, but is that the order of it? I just like how he say it. It's so funky. You do need the 4 elements. So fire, earth, water, and air. So for fire, a white candle for purity, and to only, call in the ancestors of your highest good and of your highest order. And the white candle is like a beacon for them. It's like a light that guides them to you. For water, pretty self-explanatory, just some water. And I put more than 1 cup of water on my altar. That's just something that I was taught to do, because what they gonna do with 1 cup, I don't know. So just try to put more than 1 cup of water on your altar space if you can. And for the water, I only use room temperature water. Like I said, that's just how I was taught to. So and that's what I've always done since I've started this, is room temperature water, so you can draw in the ancestors of your highest good and your highest order. I was told that cold water is like coldness, like bringing in like the cold ancestors. You don't want that. You're trying to get the good ancestors of our highest good and of highest order. But I use room temperature water. I don't know how everybody else does it. I'm just telling y'all what I did. So, do your research. For earth, at first I started out with a plant that I would just use on there, but I switched it to being crystals. Now, if your ancestors don't like crystals, as more, you know, the more y'all get connected, they gonna tell you what the fuck they like and what they don't like, okay? So if all you got is crystals right now, just use that. But, you know, eventually if they really don't like it, they will let you know so you can replace it with something else. The more you grow in your journey, they will reveal certain things to you. So yeah, I use crystals on my altar for earth, and it's just like to ground the altar. So I use black tourmaline for protection. I use amethyst so I can connect, so I can receive downloads from my ancestors, and to keep that third eye connection with them, you know, strong, and so I'm able to hear them. I use rose quartz to bring in the ancestors that are loving, that, you know, want the best for me. And I use clear quartz to amplify the energies of those other crystals. But like I said, if you don't want to use crystals, then you can use plants. Just go with whatever you're guided to. And for the last element is air. And for air, I use incense. I say, like, just starting out, I think maybe frankincense or lavender will be good, but you know, frankincense and lavender have protection qualities. Another thing you're gonna need is a white tablecloth. Do not put your ancestral items, don't put the elements that I just talked about on like a brown table, on just like a plain, like just table. You need a white tablecloth, okay? The white tablecloth it's for purity. It's to help keep the altar space purified. So use a white tablecloth, then set it up. I'm gonna show y'all a little demonstration of how maybe to set one up at the end of the video, or whenever I edit it in. I don't know, I gotta figure out my magic when I get into the editing lab or iMovie. The next one is names and pictures. So I use a picture frame, and I just write out something on a notebook paper, and I ripped it out of my notebook and I folded it up so it can fit the picture frame. And on that, and in the picture frame, I have like the names of the ancestors that I do know who I want on the altar, and I have the names of, well, I don't have the names, but I have a section where I'm like, and the ancestors and unknown ancestors who I'm not familiar with, of my highest good and my highest order. I want them to be on the altar too. Another tool that you need is a weapon so they can protect you. So whether that's, you know, just, you know, like I said, working what you got, but I'm not gonna lie, y'all, the machete from Harbor Freights is like, what, $13. I know y'all got $13. Of course, you can like pray for protection, do protection candles and everything, but you know, if you can, when you can, get a weapon so they can better protect you. Some more tools is that they need dishes. They need their own set of dishes, a plate, a bowl. They need their own utensils, so fork, knife, spoon. They need a shot glass for liquor. You know, their own dishes for water. So make sure that you have your own set just for your ancestors. You don't use that shit. You don't let nobody else use that shit. That set is specifically for your ancestors, nobody else. And if you can, get some flowers, put on your altar. Make it cute, you know. Make your ancestor altar a little fab. Like the flowers, it's not really an essential, I guess. But if you can, get your ancestors some flowers to put on that altar, okay? And like a little tidbit for deity work. I told you I was going to talk about it, but if you do want to work with a deity, you know, do your research on that, because through your research, you know, you're going to find people who know what that specific deity likes and wants on their altar, because they work with that deity. So just do your research and go trust your discernment when it comes to receiving knowledge from people. But the requirements, like the shit that's not negotiable, is a white tablecloth for purity. You need the names and pictures of your folks. And if you have folks, like I said, you do need to write out even unknown ancestors who have my best intention at heart. You need to write that out on the picture frame, because you do have ancestors who you don't know that are working with you. But yeah, you need a white tablecloth. You need the names and the picture frames. You need pictures of people you do know. You need the 4 elements. Those are non-negotiables, okay? A weapon, you know, just to eliminate some shit. If you are able to get a weapon, get a weapon. So when you are creating your altar, what you want to do is make sure your space is physically clean and spiritually cleansed. So make sure you are spiritually cleansed. Your space is spiritually cleansed. And then wash your items and cleanse those items. I cleanse my items when I first got them. I think I cleanse them with, I usually just cleanse with Palo Santo if on something. But you can go heavier with dragon's blood and then Palo Santo, or if you use incense, you can cleanse it with that, or if you use herbs, you can use it with that, or if you use Florida water, you can use that. So just make sure you are spiritually or physically cleansing your ancestral items and spiritually cleansing them. For candles, girl, you ain't gotta wash that. You can just cleanse it with herbs, Florida water, or smoke, whatever floats your boat. Again, go check out my spiritual hygiene video. Yeah, so you don't want to just put items that you picked up from the store directly onto your ancestral altar that you are creating, because those items may have energies attached to them. You know, everything is energy, y'all. Like, a lot of shit that we don't see, it be a lot of spirits out here that we can't see with our physical eyes. So it's really important for you to like I'm gonna just use this white candle. So use this white candle, and I usually do Palo Santo, and I cleanse it out, and I set it over to Palo Santo, and I just smoke cleanse it out, open the window, say my intentions, you know, get rid of all the negative energy, blah, 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 you know, whatever's on your spirit to say. I say that. And after everything is cleansed, then you can start creating it. Make it pretty, make it cute, make it fab. Like I said, work what you got, girl. And when she gets a little bit more, you can make it pretty then. But, you know, you can just start setting it up at this point. Yeah, don't have it looking janky, y'all. Don't just set it up all willy-nilly. Your ancestors wasn't janky, so why the fuck would you make their altar janky? You know, make it make sense. So make sure it's like just neat. Like y'all know, I've had to house hop a lot. So like when I'm initially setting up my altar, after I create it and after I set all my items down, hang my pictures up, I like to cleanse myself again. I like to cleanse the items again. And then, you know, I say my prayers, I call in my ancestors, and light my candle after it's all set up. And when you are taking a step, before you light that candle, make sure you are saying, ancestors in my highest good and in my highest order. All right, can you come through? And then just light the candle and they shall come. And then if you feel called to cleanse yourself again after that, then do that. But if you don't, then that's just what, you know, that's what it is. It's just set up now. So a little tip that I learned for like a little bit of candle reading. So if you want to look at your candle at the base of the candle, so like right here, like really down right here of where the candle, the string comes out, it should be blue. That's how you know it's from the ancestors. And then it should like, you know, go into the regular colors of a candle. But if it's not blue at like the base of it, then you might want to just take that down, do a really good cleansing bath, cleanse your house again, and, you know, set it up again, try again, you know, and pray on it before you set it up again. So that's just like a little tip. Another way to see if your ancestors are there, if it's bubbles in the water, that's just like your ancestors making your presence known. This has happened to me a couple of times, the bubbles being a water child. And then after you start setting it up, if you see like the flame, then I know for me, like when I see the flame dancing as I'm like talking out loud and everything, I'm like, okay, my ancestors are here to hear me. Or like noises in my house and everything, I'm like, okay, that's them. So when it comes to setting up an altar, you need to stay on a routine with them. Some ancestors may want you to do offering every week. Some ancestors may want you to do every 2 weeks. And if you can't do that, all I want to say is that they know what you can do. They gonna work around your situation. They gonna work with you through your situation. So like for me, I used to live somewhere where I couldn't have an altar up. So I would have to wait till certain times. And my ancestors knew this, so I would get on a routine where I would try to set mine up every 2 weeks when my mom was out the house. Girl, so I would just rush around that day when I was off, set a day out for them. I would put it on my calendar so we all knew this is the day the altar should be getting put up, right? So that whole day I'm just rushing around, I'm cooking, you know, I'm saging the house, I'm doing my cleansing work. And then I would just set up my altar and I would just sit with them or be with them until, you know, it was time for me to take it down until before my mom came back home. So you just kind of got to work with what you got and be slick about it. But yeah, so you got to be on a routine with them. It shows consistency. And it's like the same thing with cleaning your altar too. Girl, they didn't hit me over the head a couple times without personally myself. So like starting to get on a routine, like changing their water, you know, every week, or cleaning it, you know, just making sure, keeping it nice and tight, you know what I mean, nice and tidy. Yeah, so just, you know, being consistent, it shows them that you are taking it serious, that you don't take them for granted, and that you appreciate the work that you are doing, that they are doing for you. So now I'm gonna get into some different ways that you can make an altar if you live somewhere where you can't have like a physical altar. So I'm gonna talk about when I was in college, right? When I was in college, I wasn't allowed to have open flames, as we all know. You're just limited to certain things and limited to a certain amount of space. So for me, I just use myself as the vessel, because when you are working with your ancestors, at the end of the day, you are the vessel. You don't really need a physical altar. If you are able to have one, then absolutely 100% do that. But if you can't, you can just work with what you got, which is you. So when I was at college, I would just make homemade foods, and before I would eat, I would pray over my food, and I would say, ancestors of my highest good and my highest order, this is for y'all, and I would just eat, and then they took that as an offering. And like I said, I just had to kind of make my way around things when I used to live with people who didn't want me to have my altar up. So like when I lived with my grandma at one point, girl, she did not approve. Christian till the day she died. But she accepted me and everything, and I loved her for it. But she was like, nah, you can't have that here. So I took it down, but I just worked around it. So there would be times when she was out the house, or times at night when she would go to bed, where I would set up my altar and I would get food for them. But I had to be real slick about it. And then before she would wake up, I would make sure I put my offerings to throw it away. I would just give it back to nature and set it outside under a tree. And I don't know if she knew or not, but the altar, the physical altar, it was never up when she came in the room to see. So I was respecting her boundaries, but I also had to make sure my people were fed. And like I said again, during those times where I couldn't have my altar up, my ancestors really worked with me, because they knew what I was going through, and they knew the type of people, that were around me that didn't really like what I was doing spiritually. So they're gonna work with you as long as you take that initiative to show that you care and show that you want to do that. They gonna make a way for you. I promise you that. And it has been so many times where I've had to my mom came home earlier than I thought she was, and I just had to be slick about it and and get rid of my offerings at nighttime and give it back to a tree outside in nature. So I don't know. They make shit happen. They make shit work for you. So now I want to get into the type of offerings that you can give. So some good offerings that a lot of ancestors like, but then again, everybody's ancestors are different. So take that what you will. Some ancestors, a lot of ancestors like tobacco, because you got to think about the old times, right? So they like tobacco. So put something on there like that, maybe a cigar, some cigarettes. If they like to smoke, put a blunt on there. Put a blunt. You don't touch that. Don't smoke it either. So put something on there, that they liked. Another one is coffee. Coffee helps shit move. A lot of our ancestors enjoy coffee. So put some coffee on there. Like I said, coffee helps shit move a lot faster as well. A lot of, ancestral spirits liked chocolate. So chocolate is a good offering, but also if you have ancestors who don't like that, get something else for them. So it's like I said, you have to really be in tune with your people and what they want. So when it comes to the food that you should put on your altar, you have to put foods that they liked and snacks that they liked on your altar. This ain't about you, girl. Take yourself out of the equation and think about them. If they like soul food, like a lot of our ancestors did, make some good soul food. What they make when you were growing up. What were some of their like I said, just favorite foods. Put that on there. Make that for them. And even when you cooking, if you don't know how to make something, I guarantee you they're gonna come in and help you if you just open your mouth and ask. So yeah, you might be on a diet. They are not on a diet. So don't get stingy. Don't be trifling. Okay? Don't put no vegetarian shit or no plant-based shit if you know they wasn't like that, girl. I'd smack you if I was in the Astrals. So really just take that into consideration and remove yourself out of that equation and make sure that your focus is on giving them what they like. I know a lot of ancestors like rum. Mine don't really like that, but some ancestors like rum. So just kind of explore and see what's being sucked up energy wise, because when you put liquor or when you put coffee or stuff down, you can see how fast it kind of goes down, because they're drinking it spiritually, genuinely. You come back after a day, or maybe even after a couple of hours, and you see that it started off full, but now all of a sudden it's in the middle. That means they like that offering. So keep up with that. So just kind of be observant to what it is. And when it comes to food offerings, if something molds very, very fastly, get that shit off the fucking altar immediately, expeditiously. They hate it. Because that happened to me one time and I didn't know. And I kept putting that shit down on the altar and they kept molding it. So just make sure you keep that in mind, okay? So I'm thinking about it right now. It's kind of funny because I was just so I really did not know. So yeah, if it molds really, really fast, they hate that offering. Never put that shit back on there again, okay? Another thing is money. Some ancestors like ancestral money, but a lot of ancestors want that real money, okay? It's the least you can do. That's how they bring money in to you. That's how another way they can bring money into you. Also, if you know you can't get no money, girl, don't stress yourself. They know what you can work with, okay? Or maybe use ancestor money for a little bit. I know some black ancestors really don't like that shit. They prefer real money. I'm gonna enter this clip of a spiritualist on Twitter when she had said that she tried to put ancestor money on there and her ancestors was like, girl, what the fuck is this? So it's really about really connecting with your own people and seeing what they like and what they don't like. Only keep offerings on your altar for maybe 1 or 2 days max. You know, because after that, it's just kind of like the food gets nasty, it starts smelling, it can attract, little critters. So really all they need is like 1 day to really sop up, 1 full day to really sop up that energy. So maybe you give them the offering in the morning, and at nighttime you give it back to nature, or you just, throw it away. I don't know your tea, I don't know your business, girl. And you can really tell like when they really like a meal by how fast it kind of dries up, because that means that the energy of that food is getting, kind of eaten, I guess, by them. You can say, I use eating because we all know it's not really getting eaten, but energetically it's getting sopped up, So the faster that they may dry something up, or I've seen a spiritualist where they put a sweet potato pie on the altar and the ancestors cracked it because they're like, okay, girl, this is good. I'm gonna put a little picture in here too if I can find it. So you can really tell by how the offering looks, if they really liked it or not. And if you don't have maybe enough money to get them some food, or maybe, you don't have enough just to get them food, then you don't always have to give food as an offering. The food offerings just, give them energy to make shit move on your behalf. But other offerings is just your time. So you can sing to them, you can dance with them. You can just honestly just sit by the altar and do your own personal work. Sometimes I just like to sit at the altar and do my work. There would be times where I would just sit at the altar and journal, and whatever, I wanted to talk about, it was just like regular conversation. I don't know, but like just your time. And all the time, you don't really even have to talk. It's just sitting there with them. It's just like a nice little comfortable silence. So it's just about really you being intentional with them to show them that you care. And also another way is putting on their favorite music as well. So sometimes when I'm just chilling and doing my own work, I throw on some gospel. Because I know a lot of my ancestors like gospel. I throw on an old school R&B playlist. I throw on specific songs that I knew certain ancestors like, as a way of just giving them, their time to get their little groove on. You know what I mean? But like really gospel is like my go-to. But yeah, sometimes I just switch it up. So playing their favorite music that they liked is also an offering as well. And just like, it just makes the environment more comfortable for everybody, for them as well. It just makes them, I feel like it just shows them that you want them here, The car horn just beeped. I'm taking that as confirmation. So the next thing I'm gonna get into is like some tips that, you should remember, and things that I do before I, connect. So one thing that I do is if I'm leaving out the house and then, I'm going to stores, I'm doing errands, or just going out to hang out, when I come back home, I make sure I cleanse myself. I do a little quick rundown of some Palo Santo before I set my altar, before I light that flame to my altar, because I feel like, I don't know, for me, I feel like other energies may, try to get attached. And, if I set that altar, if I light the candle to the altar, then I feel like something can maybe shift to that or attach itself to that energy. So this is just something I personally do. I don't know. I've been doing this for the past couple of years. So I just cleanse myself when I get home, and then I light up my altar. Yeah, so it's just basically making sure that my energy is good before I invoke them. When you are doing any type of spiritual work, do it at your altar. Your ancestors are most likely guiding you, and your guides and your angels as well. But, I like to do all my spiritual workings at my altar. So, my mind is focused. I know they're here with me. I know they're guiding me. And it makes me feel more powerful when I place my spiritual workings on the altar as well, because I know they're making that shit happen. When it's time for me to go to bed, I do my nightly prayers at my altar. And I just make sure I'm, just saying thank you for everything that may have happened. I'm asking them for protection. Anything else that I might need, I ask them for that. And I just give gratitude and appreciate their presence in my life. And so I'm just doing all my nightly prayers on my altar. And when I wake up in the morning, I make sure I say good morning. And if I forgot to say good morning, I'd be like, damn, y'all, did I say good morning? My bad, good morning. So I just make sure I'm always speaking to them every single day. It doesn't have to be some big thing. I mentioned this in my How to Connect with Ancestors video too. It was this video that I was watching when I was learning how to connect with my ancestors. And Kimmy Marie, they had said that sometimes they go by their altar and just do like a simple deuce and just keep it pushing, because sometimes it's all you need. It doesn't have to be a bunch of rah-rah all the time, girl. Sometimes, like I said, it's just a comfortable silence. Like, it's just a comfortable acknowledgement. Like, hey, y'all, hey, like, it's a real love. The deeper you get on your journey, the more dedicated you get to your practice, the more dedicated you stay to your routine when it comes to your spiritual workings, or your spiritual routine, I guess. The more like dedicated you stay to your path and doing what you need to do, girl, I promise you the communication is going to go from this to this really, really quick. You're going to get a lot of ancestors that you didn't know in this lifetime that, passed way before you were born, that come to you to say, hey, to say what's up, to say I'm around you. They blessed you with a whole bunch of knowledge, a whole bunch of information. They are literally guiding you. You just get connected to more family. And I know for me, like, I got, revelations of unknown ancestors that I didn't meet in this lifetime, or that I wasn't familiar with, or that I didn't even know. They came way before I was born, and they presented themselves to me, which I really loved. So for me, it made me feel a lot more connected to my family. I just felt a lot more love, I guess you can say. Like I said in my How to Connect to Ancestors video, I feel more whole in who I am, because I know where I come from, and I know, like, I have family around me in the spirit. I may, go through my struggles with my blood family here, but I know I got real ones on the other side riding for me, always by my side. Don't play about me, and I don't play about them. So like I said, it's just love. So don't just think that only the ancestor that you knew in this lifetime are going to come through. You have ancestors, decades, generations, the ancient ancestors who are going to want to work with you. The more you ascend. It's like I said, it's an initiation process, So the more you get deeper in, the more you are granted with more information. And for a tip for me to get confirmation or get answers or something is, like I said earlier, I look to the candle flame for a lot of answers on something. So just when I'm talking out loud, I would just look to my candle flame. So okay, what y'all think about this? And if it gets crazy moving, I'm like, okay, they hear me on that. So I just ask, say the prayer. I just look to the candle flame for confirmation on certain things, to know that they're around me, I guess. They be listening, child. They really be listening. And I want to say this, all of your, it's 4 for 4 in the timer right now. That's funny. But all of your ancestors are not going to be around you all of the time. I believe that you have an ancestral guide and a spirit guide that's assigned with you at birth that always stays with you. But sometimes certain ancestors can come in at a certain phase in your life to help you with that phase, and then they go attend to some other business they need to handle, because your ancestors, they got lives too on the other side. They monitoring, they going over a lot of shit, so they not gonna always be tuck and tail around you. So I'm gonna just do a simple setup for y'all, just so y'all can get a visual idea of what your altar is probably gonna look like. I'm gonna do it on my little dresser that I got. So give me a second. So white cloth. I have their own plate. I use a different color. I use a green plate and bowl. I have instead of a black, I use glass. But yeah, so their own cup, their own utensil. Your crystals. Your candle. I forgot the incense. And just imagine there's an incense stick in here. So bam, I usually put all of the elements in the 4 corners. So yeah, you just fill it with water. Make sure you got all your crystals, or if you use a plant for your air element, for your earth element. And then the incense, then the candle. They have their own set of everything. I never touch their stuff. And also you want to make sure that you have your pictures and your the names of who you want on the altar as well. I mean, that's pretty much it. I hope y'all can hear me. But this is about it. Like I said, y'all, I don't really like showing my altar on camera. I don't think y'all don't need to see that. I don't know. Like, that's just a respect thing for me when it comes to that, because it's very sacred. And it's not for the whole world to see. So, yeah, just be mindful of that. You know, if you are doing something on social media or whatnot, not everybody needs to see your whole thing. Not everybody needs to know your whole business, your whole tea, your whole everything. Some things you just keep for yourself because it is sacred. All right. Like always, if I forgot something or I missed something, I'm gonna link it in the description box. So go check that out. I love y'all. I'm very grateful for y'all. Besos. All right, chucking up them deuces, my ninjas. All right, bye.